Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Naomi here. I hope you're having a fabulous day, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you're at. But today in this video, I want to talk about the unwounded. I want to talk about the trauma bond between a narcissist and the empath. And so when you go through these connections and you're breaking generational curses, okay, and you're literally breaking, healing, evolving as part of the journey, right? And you're learning your lessons and stuff like that, and your value and your worth in these connections. That's what they're about. And it's about, for me, I chose to, heal, evolve again, and heal the wounds that were connected to this, you know what I mean? And it cuts the cord, and so once you heal that, like when you go from, in the beginning to meeting the person, and, you have these, in this dynamic, you have, these lessons to learn about yourself and about growth, and so, and when you're a generational thing, you're literally breaking intergenerational things, okay? To, things that are like, oh, I need to work on that. It's like a mirror, right? I need to work on that. I should be able to say this. I should be able to do this. I should, You're working on these inner things and you're healing these wounds, okay? Within you, okay? Generational things, lineages, strongholds, okay? So as you're breaking free from them, your holes are closing up. You know what I mean? Like those holes that were attached to this individual, okay? And it's like a mirror you're seeing, you know what I mean? Like, especially abuse, you know what I mean? Maybe you come from a generational, like I did. I watched my mother, and when I was a child, my stepdad, again, physically, mentally, financially, verbally abused her. So, anyways, that was a generational thing I had to break in my bloodline, okay? So then I come across my situation and, anyways, and those are things like not tolerating it, healing that wound that would allow you, you know what I mean? Like, and it could be in any form, mental, you know what I mean? Like, like I said, mental, physical, financial, whatever it is, but it's healing that wound that will keep you from allowing that person to do that to you. So, but, that's what I did, you know what I mean? And so, now whether the other person, again, these people don't choose to change or choose the wound, choose to heal themselves, but that's not the point. It's about you know what I mean? And what God has called you to do and heal. And again, focus on self-involvement. And anyways, and so, but there's a difference between, we all go through hurt and pain and that's valid. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta listen to that pain, listen to that hurt, deal with it. You know what I mean? Cry, go through it. But there's validate that you were hurt and whatever situations and understand that it's valid, right? But then there's a difference between abusing, so where the narcissism is, where you abuse and use that pain and not heal and grow from it, and you use it to manipulate and use others and make people feel sorry for you. You know what I mean? There's a difference, okay? Because, like I said, we all go through trauma and stuff like that, and there's no time limit or anything like that, but there's a difference between allowing people to manipulate and use that trauma for their gain. You get what I'm saying? And that's not okay, and like I said, we all go through traumas in our life, you know what I mean? Like if you see my story, I went through so much, and I don't believe in we're always fully to a perfect heal, but I believe we can get really close to it, healing, you know what I mean? And that's what I did, you know what I mean? I still continue growing, I still continue healing as we go through life, you know what I mean, right? But again, like I said, when you're a real generational curse breaker, like I said, it's going on 15 and a half years. I spent a lot of time healing my wounds, healing that trauma in my generations, you know what I mean? It's not fun because you're just constantly healing, you know what I mean? And it's like, who wants to do that, right? They want, but I was dedicated to this when I found out that I was a generational curse breaker. I dedicated and made a vow to God and like my bloodline, and and that's what I did, and now I sit here with a lot of healed energy, you know what I mean? Like I still have little things, that because I went through, in this past situation, but anxiety and stuff like that. But yeah, I healed a lot, and then understanding, what you're coming against, you know what I mean? Like, and again, but understanding that, again, that we all have wounds and we all have trauma that we go through, and it's totally understandable, and different timelines that we heal from, right? Or we choose to heal. But then again, like I'm going to say again, there's a difference between using people to manipulate people with your trauma and not choosing to change that and heal that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I share, like I said, I can share my story. I heal a lot from it, you know what I mean? And my trauma with you, but I don't choose to manipulate or use people and say, oh, look, you know what I mean? Like, I've been through this and you give me this, you know what I mean? There's a difference, you know what I mean? And it's valid because you want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard. They want to people to hear their pain and their, you know what I mean? Like, and for me, I'm a big believer in the Lord. And I have a big relationship with the Lord. And so a lot of my pain was inflicted on God. You know what I mean? A healthy way that he's taught me is, and again, I went through this generational thing, breaking it, and you had to purge. You purge a lot, okay? But there's a difference between purging your pain on other people and then purging your pain on the cross, or like I said, different, maybe not have a relationship with nothing with the Lord. Go in the garage, hitting a punching bag. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm building a little cross with a wooden, you know what I mean? And I want to, that's another, like I said in another video, but, just nailing all your pain, like, if someone did you wrong, something like that, because life goes, we go through lessons, and not everybody's on the same journey, you know what I mean? Like, and this is where, God has took me through a process these last 15 and a half years to understand and meet people where they're at, you know what I mean? Because like I said, we come from different journeys, we come from different, you know what I mean, backgrounds, stuff like that, but there's a difference between allowing people to abuse that in your life and removing those people, okay? And people abusing that, you know what I mean? This is where you go through in the situations with the breaking these generational curses. Like, you go in these dark things in the beginning, you're unhealed, like that, and you feel bad and you feel sorry, for these people and stuff like that, and then they abuse that, you know what I mean? And then they abuse that and they don't change and they don't heal, they don't evolve, you know what I mean? So that's when God's like, no, you know what I mean? There's a difference, you know what I mean? That we need to heal. It's understandable, you know what I mean? Like, and we all have sympathy for everybody, those that have actually hold on, that can have sympathy, you know what I mean? But there's a difference between abusing that. You know what I mean? There's a difference between using people and abusing that, And so, and I've always been a soldier. Like I said, since a young age, I've been on my own and taking care of myself. So I wasn't used to that. And now I'm starting to get used to that. God's bringing people, in my life and to really, how do I say it? Like, give me energy back in my life. You know what I mean? But I guess I was just born to be like a natural born leader. You know what I mean? But before I didn't know how to reach out to people, you know what I mean? Like, I would just go through my pain and give it to God, and I would cry and I would purge and heal, you know what I mean? And I would just feel like, there's moments when you're unhealed, like, oh, do people care, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Like, and that's when you're unhealed and stuff like that. And so, but it's about your journey and what God is showing you in your life, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just thankful. He's given me that ability. It's a choice. Again, we have a choice, in life. We all make choices in life, And again, I just choose to heal, you know what I mean? I choose to heal my bloodline. I refuse to play victim, you know what I mean? Like, and I am always been the blessing everywhere I go. And I look back and where I'm at now, and I was a blessing to a lot of people in my life, you know what I mean? And I'm very thankful to be able to see that, you know what I mean? And you literally, when you change your mindset, you know what I mean? Like, and you heal and stuff like that, you can look back and go, wow, I was never not the, you know what I mean? Like, that's another video, but where you go across people and they try to make you feel invalid, but you're not invalid. You're actually the opposite. You know what I mean? And so, and again, that God and the universe will eject people out of your life and that's, has nothing to do with you, you know what I mean? It just, everybody has different journeys, different walks, people at different levels, you know what I mean? Like, in growth, some people refuse to change, and, if you're changing and evolving, God and the universe like, no, you got to go, you know what I mean? And so, that's life, you know what I mean? And this is where, you see the circulations of people and places and things, and it's seasonal, you know what I mean? It's because we all, like I said, on different journeys, you know what I mean? Or the God has it's all on different journeys in life, and so, I talked to somebody else too about, and they were going through the same thing. They had to get rid of friends because they were evolving and choosing to change this. And this person was still choosing to do drugs and do all this stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so that person, it was hard for them because they cared about them. There's nothing wrong. I cared about a lot of these people. But, when you're choosing a better life, a healthier life, you gotta go. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, you know, they were hindering him. He was hindering him. Oh, come on, let's go do this. Come on, bro. Right? From his growth. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, so he had to let that person go, you know, and yeah, and he was just talking, telling me about that. And it's nothing personal and stuff like that. But like I said, when you choose to heal, you choose to evolve, you choose to be better in your life, God and the universe, it's not even on you. God and the universe is going to eject people, whether you like it or not, out of your life. You know what I mean? And so, but anyways, I just wanted to share that video about, you know, understanding that, you know, like I said, we all have trauma. We all go through things, hurtful things, you know what I mean? And I sympathize for a lot of people. And there's no judgment on what time, how you're healing, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That's your own personal growth. But I'm talking about when you use it against people to use people, you know what I mean? And then you're not changing and healing from that, you know what I mean? And it's abusing your power. And a lot of times narcs do that, you know what I mean? And they abuse their power and they use people and make them feel sorry. But they're not changing that, you know what I mean? They keep, you know what I mean? Like, I've changed, I've healed, you know what I mean? Like, these wounds that I had, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not even like I had people feel sorry too. That's what I say. Like, I just, you know, call myself a warrior, you know what I mean? Like, and very thankful for God and my angels in my life. And yeah, again, you could just pray and pray for people, you know, and their journeys, and you got to keep it moving in your life, you know what I mean? Like, and like I said, otherwise these people will try to hold you back, you know what I mean? And they're not changing, you know? So, and nothing personal. It's just, you're just not on the same path, you know? And mind you, people make their own choices in life. And no one should be blaming no one for their own stuff, you know what I mean? Or going around blaming this person, blaming this person. It's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. Because it's nobody's fault. We make choices that defer our life, you know what I mean? And God, you know, when we choose to heal those and fix those, you know what I mean? God will get us right back on the path, you know what I mean? But again, those are lessons that we have to learn, you know what I mean? Like in our own lives, in our own walks, you know? And again, like people come across your path that are not meant to be in your path, and you learn a lesson from them and you grow, you know what I mean? Like I did, you know, I learned a lot of lesson. I was hurt, you know what I mean? And I healed that hurt, you know what I mean? I didn't make a big deal. I healed it, and God acknowledged it. I still acknowledge it to this day, you know what I mean? Like, but there's a point where we got to grieve it and we got to heal, you know what I mean? Like, and keep moving, you know what I mean? And because God has a plan for that pain, you know what I mean? And so, but anyways, I just want to say that and say God bless you, and I'll see you on my next video. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. So I hope you're out there enjoying the sun, because it is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Just like you are gorgeous. You are gorgeous. And I'll see you on my next one, guys.